Alexis Bloom is a documentary filmmaker who has been nominated for 3 Emmy Awards. Her previous subjects included the late Roger Ailes of Fox News and the mother-daughter duo of Debbie Reynolds and Carrie. But now she has turned her gaze on Israel with one of the most talked about films of recent times. It's called The Bibi Files. It has only now been released in the UK. It's already out in the US. We should say it can't be shown in Israel for reasons we will shortly get into. Alexis, thank you so much for talking to us this week.
Thank you for having me.
I mean, look, this couldn't be more timely, your film and Netanyahu's testimony. We'll talk about the connection between the two. We should say that in Israel, this can't be shown. Would you want to explain why? Should I explain why the Israel is actually paradoxically can't see it?
I'll update you that it's been pirated widely. It's one of the most pirated films they've seen, I think. It's been passed from phone to phone, like wildfire. So, officially, I'm shocked and horrified and it's terrible. And unofficially, I'm pretty delighted.
Noted.
It's for reasons, it's a privacy law that you cannot show police interrogations without the permission of those in them. So it predates this film.
Yeah, you need the permission of the court, which wasn't given in this case. As you say, I would assume there are many Israelis who have seen it. And, for Israeli, I'm talking here from the Israeli perspective, some of the things from the interrogations, some quotes have come out over the years, obviously, but to see some of the people in those rooms being investigated, the Sarah Netanyahu, Yair Netanyahu in particular, those, I think, are things that are very shocking for many Israelis. What is the thing that shocked you the most when you saw this footage?
Well, I didn't know much about Yair and Sarah, so that certainly, their behavior and their disrespect certainly shocked me too. The level of kind of almost like denigration that they showed towards the police investigators. And actually, there was so much more of it. We were quite restrained in the film. There was a lot of yelling at policemen. There was a lot of insulting of them. But I felt that as entertaining as that might be, and as tempting as it was to use it to make them look bad, it isn't the point of the film. Benjamin Netanyahu is the prime minister, and they're not. And the ultimate responsibility lies with him. So if he has slightly unhinged family members, that might be, unfortunate, but, he has to put on his big boy pants and rule the country and sort of keep them out of it.
So we should just stress the guts, the heart of the film is this amazing footage of police interviews with Netanyahu himself and then everyone else involved, including crucial witnesses, filmed in a sort of CCTV style way, which is just adds to the intensity of it. Obviously, you're not going to reveal your sources, but we wouldn't expect that. But can you just give us any flavour at all of how you came to be in possession of these amazing recordings?
Yeah, sure. In about, I think it was spring 2023, somebody reached out to Alex Gibney, the producer on the film, and said, I have some interesting material on Signal. And to his credit, he sort of tugged on the thread. And then ensued this sort of dance of trying to establish, what the material was and everything like that. So you're right, I can't say anything more than that, but that's how it happened. And I think they approached an American filmmaker precisely because the material cannot be shown in Israel. So they had to look for somebody outside who would have the sort of the gumption, the chutzpah to do it.
When you think of, first of all, I'm curious if you followed Netanyahu's own testimony in court this week. What do you think of just the internal argument here? He for a while trying to postpone, saying there's a war going on. There is indeed a war going on. He is indeed the prime minister. It is 3 days a week in which he was supposed to give his testimony. Just curious what where you fall on what you saw this week of his testimony.
Well, I think that the trial would go a lot quicker if he stopped grandstanding. You know, he says that he doesn't have the time, then he should just get to the point. Because as far as I can see, he's used it as a platform to sort of emphasize his importance on the world stage. So he's talking about everything, you know, from Syria to Iran to, you know, anecdotes about Barack Obama and things that seem not that relevant to the trial.
And I want to get to that bad things happen for a minute. Yes, he is indicted for bribery, fraud, and breach of trust. So these are very, very severe corruption indictments in any case. You do bataille in the film between this corruption and the cases themselves, case 1000 and 2000, 4000, which you mentioned, the Bezikwala and the Alovich case, and what happened on October 7th. Can you walk us through that attempt to sort of tie both of them together?
Well, they're tied together because, how to say, well, they're tied, it happens even before that, right? When the corruption cases are brought to indictment, the center and the left in Israel both say, you know, we won't rule with you. We won't provide you with the sort of coalition partnership that you need. And I think that's what sets off these dominoes. I think about it like a sort of deadly dominoes, right? They abandon him. They say, you should resign, like everybody else before you. You should resign. And he says, no, it's the deep state. They're out to get me. And it's at that point that the alliance with the extreme right is made. And that leads, first of all, to the proposed judicial overhaul, and then secondly, into the way that they wage the war post-October 7th. So when you say they're connected, they are connected, but the string, I think, is tied before October 7th.
Yeah, no, I buy that logic completely, that the war keeps going in order to keep the coalition together, and the coalition stays together to keep him out of jail. So that's the sort of connecting thread. There's one bit which is, you know, will also be shocking to people if they don't know it already, which is, and the film criticises his decision to keep the cash flowing to Hamas, suitcases in vehicles that's come from Qatar and goes into Hamas. Plenty will obviously be horrified by that, but if they didn't know it already, but is there a connection there with the corruption cases that you've laid out in the earlier part of the film?
No, that's not connected to the corruption cases. I would say that's just connected to some very bad decision making on Netanyahu's part and serves to erode this idea of him as Mr. Security. It's actually the one piece of the film that isn't connected, but is so important we felt like we had to include it, and it sits adjacent to the trials because it's happening at the same time as he's being investigated. It's not that he allowed the cash to go through, because Hamas has always received money from Israel. You know, so has the West Bank and the Palestinian Authority. You know, they can't generate, or, you know, they don't have an airport, they don't have a port, they can't get money without the approval of Israel. But that he escalated it. It went from a certain amount of money to, you know, 10 times that amount. So, yeah, he didn't start it, but under his regime, under his rule, it was given this sort of like super injection.
You know, obviously, anyone who does what you do in life and documentaries has to care very deeply about the subject matter, but it really seems like it's something you're very, very passionate about, this topic.
Yeah, I am. I think that you can't do this half-heartedly. The stakes are incredibly high, and, you know, we fact check, you know, assiduously, and you might not like what's in the film, but we have taken it very seriously and we've really fact checked it.
Did any of the Netanyahu people, by the way, make any contact with you around this
No, we asked Benjamin for an interview, and I sent through 3 requests. I got an acknowledgement that they were received, but, you know, in light of the fact that his last big American interview was with a guy called Dr. Phil, who's like a daytime talk show host, it seemed unlikely that he would give us an interview. And
Well,
frankly,
he
even if
doesn't have a very good record in interviews in Hebrew either. So,
yeah, that's true.
You two can bond about the being in the refusal club from. I just want to ask about the supporting cast, if you like. I mean, because some of the jaw-dropping moments are Yair Netanyahu and his extraordinary sort of contempt and rudeness to discourtesy to the police who are interviewing him. And then Sarah Netanyahu really on film is caught just absolutely unloading, saying that I'm this terrible victim who's lying in the gutter with knives and people killing me, and all I wanted was
and you people want to topple the prime minister, she's saying.
She says that to the police, but she says, all I wanted was a bit of positive, and then she says objective coverage. Does it matter if the prime minister's wife is, as she comes across in the film, she looks like a pretty appalling person in the film, and Yair Netanyahu the same. Do those things matter to the politics of a country if, we're talking not about the prime minister, but the wife and the son?
They matter if those characters have influence over the prime minister. Otherwise, I think they don't. But time and time again, people both on the record and off the record said how important Yair and Sarah were in terms of shaping Benjamin's worldview. Yair is very keen on social media. He's always online. Bibi is not. I mean, Bibi doesn't have a cell phone. He doesn't post. He doesn't know what a tweet is. I mean, it's not a tweet. Is it still called a tweet if it's on X? Sorry, showing my age.
You're asking two social media outlets here, so I don't know
Right.
the answer to that.
I mean, Bibi, he requires everything printed out on paper. So Yair
Like Trump.
mediates, Yair mediates his interaction with the modern world of social media, and he's important. And Sarah's important. She knows his schedule. We touch on this in the film. She's the trust boss. She's the one who says, because she's a psychologist. There's that famous Israeli recording, psychologist, and she spells it out. She says she's the psychologist. She understands the way people think, and Bibi doesn't. So she approves appointments or says to Benjamin, we can't trust them. It felt important to include them. And I think that this idea of like these singular characters is misleading. Everyone has a family, everyone has partners or, advisors. And if you look at the good history books, they emphasize that.
Yeah, I think that famous recording is she's yelling at a communications expert, Shaya Sega, that she wants the Israeli public to talk more about the fact that she has degrees in psychology. What you mentioned, I mean, to me, again, there were so many fascinating characters there, either investigated or asked these questions by police. I mean, Miriam Edelson, for example, sitting there and saying, we always pay for them. And then the police interrogators say, why do you always pay? And she says, well, ask them. All of their friends are rich. I mean, there are these moments where even if I think Israelis knew all of this, seeing it the way they do in your film is a very different kind of thing. And I wonder, if you ask yourself, how do you think this ends? How do you think the Netanyahu rule ends eventually? Is it because of the war? Is it because of politics? Is it because of this corruption case? How does it end?
I don't know. I mean, he's certainly got a bit of tailwind now, right? With as Emmy Awards says, he thrives in chaos. And with the fall of Syria, all my friends and sort of colleagues are texting me going, best thing ever for Netanyahu.
Well, it proves that someone needs to have a lot of luck as well, besides being a maverick politician, right?
Yeah. I mean, I can't see him going to jail at this point. I think he will try everything in his power not to, whether that means pushing out the Attorney General. The longer the trial goes on, the more the extreme right can really sink their hooks into the judicial system. And that's great for his trial. And the more, it's destabilized the region, the more war there is, the more he can say, forget about this trial, I've got more important things to do.
Well, the film is the Bibi Files. It is a very astonishing, stunning piece of work. If you're in Israel, you're going to have to get someone to send you a bootlegged copy with Alexis's very stern disapproval not. And if you're outside the country, you can see it. It's now on release in the UK and elsewhere. Alexis Bloom, thanks so much for talking to us on Unholy.
Thank you,
Thank you
so
so
much
much
for having me. I'm a big fan. Thank you.
Thanks so much.